Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cardistry Talk. This is episode 39. This is also the first episode of what I would consider season 2. We're going on our second year of Cardistry Talk, so
Ooh,
that's awesome.
congratulations.
Yes, thank you, thank you. So some quick plugs real quick before we even jump into this. Xdecks has made their YouTube channel, so go subscribe over there. I have a tutorial up now on that channel if you guys want to check
Yes.
it out.
Xdecks.
Xdecks. So check that out. And plug stopped now and on with the regular interview. Today I'm joined by Nate Lex. You may know him from being in the community for a long time. And right now he's kind of focuses on Xdecks, as we said. Nate, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, Caleb, for having me. It's good to be back.
Yes. So
A little different hair now than I had then.
yes, I missed the long hair. That's what I'm used to. That's what that's what I got introduced to. Now
Really? I might have to grow it out again.
But yeah, super happy to have you back. Obviously, starting with season 2, we're having more people come back. I know season 1 was focused on basically exclusively new people, but you've had a lot of new stuff happen with you recently. So we'll
Yes.
we can kind of jump into that can of worms. Just starting with Xdecks, how did that kind of come about, and how has it been going for you?
Okay, so it's just wild. Okay. I'll tell you how God moved in the situation and how he's just been very faithful and awesome. So I graduated college about 3 weeks ago. Maybe it's actually a month ago now. That's weird. So that's been a huge milestone in my life. Graduated college with my degree in video production, and in November of last year, in 2020, I was having this like panic freak out moment of like I'm gonna be getting into paying bills for college, and like I have to essentially figure out my life now because I'm gonna be graduating in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember going through COVID, kind of getting started with Max Young and starting Subtle Plug, the Kisetsu brand, but that didn't really have any financial backing. It was definitely just like I want to get back into cards. I'm not a part of OPC anymore, but I still love cards. More than paper isn't something I can really run by myself. I don't know what I'm going to be doing as a job otherwise, and will I be getting into or out of cards? Who knows what's going to happen? I get an Instagram DM in November from this guy named Jay, who is the head of Xdecks. And he essentially says, "Hey, we love what you're doing with More Than Paper. Can you just do that for our page and we'll pay you?" And I was like, yes, I would love to. And at the time, for the second semester, I was only doing 2 classes at a time, and they were both essentially online, one media ethics, one freelance. And it was hilarious because alongside me starting at Xdecks, I was doing this freelance class that essentially was teaching me all about how to do my job in terms of like taxes, at least, or everything financial on that side. It was just wacko. And so since then, we obviously have a deck that is printed, that's going to be released in July. I think tentatively the launch date is July 9th. That is the first time I've said it publicly as well. So your show has got the exclusive launch date. That is tentative right now, but July 9th we'll be launching those. And yeah, I get to be now part of the creative content making team for running the Instagram, and then and then head of deck design essentially for Xdecks. And oh, Caleb, this will be the first time I say it publicly as well, so people get the deets. There's talk of a Cardistry documentary going on.
There we go.
I got to actually pitch it to my boss Jay, and so far we've got green lights. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say anyway. If I get in trouble for it, this will be like a Tom Holland moment because I'm very much like that. But we talked with Jay. He's approving of it. Oh, sorry, that's my laptop. And I talked to Dan and Dave Buck because that is where we want to start with the documentary, the guys who popularized cardistry. And Dave already got back to me and said, "We're really excited. Sounds like a really cool project. We'll like whenever you get logistics figured out, you're welcome to come visit our Art of Play store and start this documentary." So I have big plans that I'll probably need to talk about off mic if you want to hear them later about how I think this will go. And if the logistics all start to work out, the plan will be revealed later. But I have an idea about how all this is going to turn out and how the documentary may even lead into a bigger project. But it's all about wanting to. The really cool thing about Jay for Xdecks is that he has a lot of capital to start this business, but he's all about the artists.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what I noticed going into immediately was he gave me complete creative control to run the page. I essentially for our meetings am the card expert. So it's like these guys entering into a world where they love being consumers of it, but they need someone who's been around for a while. And there was this like wealth of knowledge I didn't even know I had about the community, but I just have because it's me because I've been around for a while. That
Mhm.
I'm guessing like Matt Fox or Kevin Ho just has because they've been around. Um, and so kind of getting to be their card expert. I kind of lost my train of thought. Oh, Jay really loves the artists, wants to support the artists. So we have we're kind of working, we have a bunch of ideas that we're trying to flesh out all at the same time. But we have a paid part of our page dedicated to designers only. And what we hopefully want to do in the future, if Xdecks grows to be a very big brand where we can financially back all these projects, we'd like to have like video teams go and personally interview them and do like B-roll and do short little, almost like a docu series on your favorite cardists
Mhm.
and favorite designers. Because what we found out is that designers are really talented, but they're not super awesome at marketing themselves. Like something that I noticed that I've been gifted in, especially even at Cardistry Con, was talking to people. I noticed that when I went to Cardistry Con for the first time, a lot of these people are more introverted. They love the art of cardistry, but aren't super outgoing. And so to market themselves on a social media platform is not something necessarily that they're gifted at, but they're definitely gifted at design. I can't illustrate worth a crap, but
Mhm.
I can make the content and obviously love talking to people. So that all kind of works itself out. Um, but so one thing that he's just been super generous about is just like, it's totally not about the money. It's about actually helping the artist flourish. So much so that people are kind of like wary of it because they're like, this is kind of too good to be true. Something must be off here because no one just wants to fund me like that. But he's like, yes, I do, but people don't believe me. So
Mhm.
we're seeing how many, essentially what I'm hoping for is seeing how many people we can actually collaborate with through the community to do different decks with and support them instead of um, competitiveness. I would like to go as collaborative as possible. Um,
Mhm.
and a cool idea we have is obviously this deck doesn't have it, but I would like to get back into teaching the basics of cardistry. Because on the story, even today, I posted some pictures of my two friends who I well, they're still in school, but I went to school with them.
Mhm.
And literally, I'll just pull up the text. My friend Devin texted me. Um, where is his text? He said he texted me earlier today, and he goes, "Hey, can we do more cardistry soon?" And I was like, "Yes, Devin, I would love that." So I have a video of me teaching them swing cuts and swivel cuts today, and I'm like, "Man, this could be." I have plans on plans on plans of what I'd like to do with it, like kind of a big brother mentorship program and like an after school thing for potentially places across the country because it's so universal and it's not necessarily something digital and it's obviously cheap with
Yeah.
cards.
So that's really awesome. The idea of a cardistry documentary. I know I've pitched not pitched it, but I've talked about it on the show before. I don't remember exactly with who, but I think it's really important, especially right now, to like cardistry preservation because this is all so new. Like I don't know if you've seen it, but I see stuff kind of dropping off sometimes, like older videos and things. So I think like preserving as much of this early information as we can and
Oh,
putting
that's
it into
true.
a digestible type of thing is really important. So I think that's like I'm a huge fan of this idea. I've said it before on the podcast. I would love to see a cardistry documentary to kind of go over the beginnings.
I'm hoping. Okay, so here's if we can talk about that for a little bit. Here's one of my favorite things that I think would be hilarious and just I think I use the word hilarious all the time when I just mean like incredulous, like incredible. Like I don't even have a word to describe it. But because I really always liked the name More Than Paper, I think that may be the title of the Cardistry documentary.
More than paper.
More Than Paper, a cardistry story.
That would be perfect,
That would be
honestly.
so cool. And then I
Yeah.
already have the idea for the beginning of the documentary planned out. I don't know how it's going to end up because things change all the time. But just this idea of every single time I run into somebody and try to explain to them what cardistry is, I this is usually always what I say, and I thought this would be a brilliant opening. And it's like kind of like fading from black on me in an interview room, and someone behind the camera going, "So what? So what is cardistry?" And I'm like, well, it's kind of like juggling or yo-yo tricks or skateboarding, but with a deck of. Let me just show you, and then cuts to black, and then a ton of B-roll of like
Mhm.
all your favorite famous cardists. Because essentially, it's literally like, well, I'm going to try to explain to you what it is, and then I just pull up my Instagram and show them some videos of some stuff I do, or I pull out a deck of cards and show them. But it's this idea of I I have to show you because there's no good way to describe
Yeah,
it.
nothing can properly capture what it is. It's
Correct.
special. It's unique.
Yes. And so I like that's an interesting thing that you say, the preservation. That's something that I wouldn't have thought of. Like making sure we like people know what a swing cut is and what swivel cuts are and different things like that. Like I still it's funny to think that what I find to be basic in my mind are some skills I still haven't learned. So I can do like an extension of the worm and a whole bunch of things with like the chin and all this stuff, but I still can't do L cuts
Hmm.
because I haven't sat down to take the time to do them. But they're not any harder necessarily than like some other things. It's just like what people choose to practice and what they don't.
Hmm. Well, what I'm getting at too is like not only like preserving those moves, but like who created them, how they got created. Like that's like the history. Like,
Yeah, like we almost need a textbook.
yeah, exactly. Like I talked with Matt Fox. He's like, he really likes the idea of like an encyclopedia, which would be insane to make. But yeah, like that, like preserving the history because this is such an early art form, and it's pretty well preserved just because it's mostly online. But there's also
Yeah.
the fact that it's not super well preserved because it's exclusively online because stuff can get easily deleted
Or
and
just
moved
like
around and
fade
such.
into the background to go, where the heck is this thing?
Yeah, or it gets pushed in the background because the social media is always showing you the new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like, yeah, I think it would be really cool to kind of like lock down what we have made so far in like a digestible kind of what did Dan and Dave make, who made Charlier, who made Scissor Cut, like all that information I think is like really important, and I want to make sure that it's kept and we know it.
Bro, I just got chills thinking about that. That is so cool. I bet you Matt Fox could be a good guy to head the start of that encyclopedia
Yeah,
because he's been in the cardistry community for like 12, 13 years, I think.
yeah, he was saying like him, or there's someone I think it's Jake Butler, something Butler, that also has like just an advanced, like not advanced, but like a vast kind of knowledge and like archive of like videos and such. Um, but yeah, I think that's something really cool that we could do as a community that a lot of other communities can't have done because they started before um,
Yeah.
the online type of stuff. Like you can't like we kind of know how like soccer or something came to be, but we don't have like the specifics. Whereas we can have
Yeah.
the specifics for cardistry.
Yeah. I think what's super cool, one thing that we wanted to kind of hit or touch on with the documentary is um one thing that my friend Ethan thought of. He was the guy who kind of pitched the idea to my boss, is that we have this art form. Well, two things. One, that we have craftsmanship mixed with artistry, with cardistry, because a deck of cards can sit on a shelf and be a collector's item and just a piece of craftsmanship, but can also be part of the actual performance art. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, and that like a circle type thing like on tally hos actually enhance the art form, and that doesn't like the basketball players who are really good, the artists, if you will, like have the shoes that they always wore, but it didn't necessarily enhance their game to such a degree to where it made it super noticeable. They were just the cool shoes they wore.
Mm-hmm.
People are mostly paying attention to like a dunk, but when you have certain like designs of cards that are going to do something, so when I take like a tally ho deck and do this, it looks like it's staying in place because of like the design of the cards.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as well as the idea that because it's so young, you can sit down with the guys who popularize it. Essentially, what he was saying is that because it's such a new art form, you have the possibility to have like James Naismith, the guy who invented basketball. You kind of have this idea of imagine James Naismith being able to sit down with Michael Jordan and LeBron James and Kobe Bryant and be like, here are some of the top performers in the sport you created so long ago that has become this huge, enormous thing. So like being able to sit down with Dan and Dave and go like, you guys kind of helped popularize what the brands are now. So like Art of Play is yours, but then there's like Anyone Worldwide and Fontaine and OPC, name anyone else,
Mhm.
and just have the ability to talk, like have essentially being able to have those guys in the same room isn't really possible with a lot of art forms.
Yeah, especially with how new, like I keep coming back to how new this all is, but it is really relatively really new. Um, we're in like a really rare spot when it comes to what's possible for us, just because of, like I said, what we have available to us as compared to other hobbies, and at what point they're starting. So,
Yes.
um, man, I hope it happens.
I mean, me too. Like I've been praying about it, just like, all right, God, I think you've put me in this place where like I've actually had some really, really cool conversations with my boss lately about like how uncanny it is that we're working together and it just seems like it's supposed to be. And going like, what essentially kind of what I've been thinking about lately that's really cool is there's this verse in the book of Ephesians that talks about God being able to do beyond what we can even think or imagine. And how because we're limited beings, like just this idea of like, I think that this Cardistry documentary is going to be huge. And but God could be like, that's just scratching the surface of what I wanted to do with it. Like there are so many bigger things. I think like obviously for me, when I first got this job at Xdecks, it was like, oh good, I'm gonna have something to pay the bills when I get out of college. I can kind of breathe. And God's like, no, I put these dreams in your heart for a reason when you were young. I allowed you to experience getting a deck of cards on the 4th of July in 2013 and seeing cardistry. Who else who else puts these dreams in your mind besides me? Like I'm gonna put that dream there and then help you do it. And I'm like the I talked about that after Cardistry Con one year, that like I wasn't supposed to be on stage at that Cardistry Con. I came back from a mission trip for 6 weeks, and then all these things got rearranged to where me and Cam had booth space and 5 minutes on stage. And I was like, only God, what in the world? And now God's put me in a place where like the people that I work with have very similar values as me, to the point where I don't want to spoil it for Jay, but he's been saying like he wants to be able to use this to help people. And like we did like I think 10% or something went to Alex's lemonade stand charity when we did the squeezer decks.
Yeah.
He's because he has a large sum of capital, but like and is able to do bigger things with it. He's talking about printing a whole deck, like a run of 5,000, and having 100% of the proceeds go to like some organization
Mm-hmm.
instead of like 10 or 20 or whatever. Like that cardistry, like even just being able to go visit hospitals and teach kids who are like stuck in bed different card stuff. And did you hear about the cardistry documentary that was made with Sean and James? I forget. I think they traveled to Nepal.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We talked about this a lot when Shano was on. Yeah.
Okay.
The Cardistry was here, I think, documentary or
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah. So imagine doing that on a bigger scale of like the cardistry documentary we make. I'll lean into it a little bit. I don't want to reveal too much. You might have to have me back on once it gets further down the road.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a certain deck that I want to make with the documentary that would incorporate and facilitate, essentially help celebrate the community. It's a very, what's the word I want to use? Just that it would bring the community together a lot. And it would essentially be like Nepal, the cardistry was here, but in a whole bunch of different places with like your favorite people from Copenhagen. So trying to visit the guys who are with Anyone Worldwide, the guys from Cardistry Touch, Dealer's Grip, all like Oliver Sogard, Tobias Levin, Nicolaj, Ladies Loss, Dimitri, just like literally anybody you can name who's had an impact on cardistry in a big way. Going to find them and helping them all kind of work on a deck together, and then producing that for the masses. And then having a little QR code on the box to be like, or even having like maybe even doing tutorials in those different locations, but like bringing them to like places where kids don't even have a deck of cards and they can literally sit in a hospital bed and watch a whole bunch of videos that we've curated and have them learn.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot tell you how satisfying it is to watch literally my friends in my living room learn doing cardistry and going like literally watching my friend doing swing cuts at dinner last night. His hands are probably as big as Oliver's, and I'm like, bro, if you got good at this, you could just step on the scene and be like one of the new like cardistry masters. Then he had the smarts today to think like, hey, you haven't given me any second thing to learn yet, like swivel cuts. So I'm just going to start practicing with my left hand. So he's already starting out practicing becoming ambidextrous. And I'm like, I can't even do that. I have to really think to be able to try to do like Sybil or something in the opposite hand.
Yeah. That's one thing I've thought about a lot is like, how much better could I be if like one hand was more balanced than the other? I don't know which hand's more. I think maybe my left. I don't know. But there's a lot of stuff that you can't do on both. I've loved the idea of like having two hands that can do a spring. You spring them together and then come together like this. Like how
Oh my
sick.
gosh. One thing that I desperately want to see, but it would take more in-person meetups, is
Mhm.
like collaborative cardistry.
Yes. Yeah.
There was a video post, Eraser Hands or Linus Schmidt.
Yeah.
He posted one the other day with his Louisiana deck.
Yeah.
And oh, don't I have mine near me? I don't know where mine is. But we support you, Linus, if you're watching. They're around here somewhere.
Yeah. Como
Anyway,
Rebi. So
is that how you pronounce it? Como Rebi?
I I think when I was talking with Parker Mitchell, who also works with them, they're like, that's what he said, but it's kind of like however you want to say it type of deal.
Okay. I like Parker. I enjoyed meeting him at CardistryCon. Um I'm so excited for CardistryCon again in person, hopefully. Um where but yeah, him just doing some flourish with some other guy.
Mhm.
And whether that be like synchronized cardistry, doing the same flourishes together, that's always super cool to see. Um, as well as like, oh, there's an old video. Oh, see, this is I'm Matt Fox and I need to get in touch to where like old videos that we remember that were really good, we can just like put in a Google Doc list so that we don't lose them.
Mhm.
But one of them was by Burger Carlson, and it was called Cha. I think it was by Burger. It's called Cha Cha Cha,
Yes. Yeah.
and oh, um, it felt like a hip hop cipher where you had like 3 or 4 rappers on there at the same time and they all write collaborative verses. And so the video was like the 4 different guys in a row of their individual moves. And I'm like, that makes a wonderful cardistry video. Like we need more stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe collaborative moves. Like there's a video a while ago of me and Sean doing flicker shot around the head when I was bald.
Mhm.
Just more stuff like that would be fantastic to see.
Yeah. I agree with you too. I thought a lot about this too. I feel like there hasn't been a lot of exploration in that. We always say solo videos, but it'd be really cool to have like a duo video, like a full video with 2 people
Bro.
or multiple
Yeah,
people.
and then have competitions like that, like some head-to-head duos.
Yeah, or you get like a cardistry or a cardistry competition, but it's with multiple people. Like that would be sick.
I think that'd be sick as well. I like the idea of doing, I mean, obviously the video stuff is really cool. What I would like to see is either more cardistry narrative stuff, because I see a lot of the solo videos and it's kind of just like a highlight reel of the best stuff you can possibly do.
Hmm.
Um, but then that kind of almost feels like cheating because you can just like literally you get as many takes as you want.
Hmm.
And it's essentially whoever spent the most time sitting and doing stuff can win. And obviously new people don't have necessarily a leg up. Also, just the idea that there's different styles of cardistry in terms of packet cuts and spreads. Like, do you remember Aviv?
Yeah, of course I
Like
remember a beef.
Aviv has just this very specific style that's
Yeah.
awesome. So it's almost like I've made this reference recently that it's like if you try when you try to put them in competition like that, the thing I don't like is it's almost like trying to put country up against hip hop in some respects.
Hmm.
You shouldn't put them in the same category. But like you could do we've and even the community has started to come up with different terms for specific genres. So like comfy cardistry is stuff that isn't too twirly, but it's a lot of packet cuts and it's a lot of sliding and then resolving. And that's considered comfy. So imagine having like a comfy competition where it's like the best comfy cardistry move. Because
Hmm.
I think one thing that's also not discussed a ton is just that like some of the comfiness of cuts, or some of the reasons why I like to do certain cuts, is how it feels. It doesn't matter how it looks, but it just feels like it resolves really well, like solving the end of a Rubik's cube, and you're like, what? Like
Yeah.
there's one specifically that I do sometimes. Looks like it's not even that flashy, but it literally just feels like it's got so many joints, and it's so much fun. It opens up kind of like Molecule, then that gets pushed over. It's like there's a hinge here, and then it's like there's a hinge here, and then you just pour it into that hand.
Hmm.
And I'm like, it's just fun to do.
Hmm. That's one thing too. I don't think, like you said, it doesn't get talked about. Like this is meant to be fun for the most part. For most people,
Yes.
that's why they got into it or why they're into it is because they want to enjoy it, have fun with it. Whereas like the community's a lot of times super serious. We want to keep pushing the art form forward. I think there's a lot of space to just enjoy cardistry how you want to enjoy it.
Yes, and then I think the funny part is there are the people who try to push it to the point where it's like it's taken too seriously, and then I think you actually lose creativity in that. But a lot of the times where I've come up with something that's a good move is either trying to do someone else's move but my own way and trying to really figure out how to do it,
Hmm.
or um like there were so many times where Cameron Toner would literally just look at me and go, have you ever tried this? And then I go, it was so funny. He would suggest something that I should try, and then I would just do it, and I would go, oh, you mean like this? And he'd be like, yeah, like that. So
Hmm.
then, like getting together with friends who kind of push you creatively just to have fun, and literally go, what if you had like a pack go around here, and then this thing sprung over here? I see that a lot with Linus and Parker in their creativity, and then I notice how good their moves are. So I think that people need to stop trying to be better and just have fun, and then you'll get better. It's
Hmm.
like that's the key. Hey, stop trying so hard and you just will relax.
Hmm. I definitely feel like the best stuff I make is usually like just trying to have fun, or especially like some of my moment based stuff, like a lot of footstalls and stuff that I do. I'm just like trying random stuff out for fun, and then something works out, and I'm like, oh, sick, you know. Like it's
Yeah.
just kind of experimenting almost. That's where my best stuff comes from, is just experimenting and trying things and having fun.
Yeah, like allowing yourself to fail and then like walking away and going, that didn't work. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
try something else.
that's fine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's really like important. I think it would be interesting to see how cardistry as an art form progresses because everything changes over time, movie
Hmm.
genres and stuff. So maybe we'll kind of go in that narrative route. Maybe we'll go into, I mean, who knows what the future can hold.
I want to see more stuff. I think Kevin Ho is the only one to have done it really, but like a live cardistry performance
Hmm.
and really come up with a routine that's based to music and is just live.
Yeah.
Like that, it requires so much more skill. And obviously, as cardists, we know that some of it even affects like the climate of the room, and how sticky the cards are is going to allow you to do like longer angels and like longer padiddles. And if the deck is too slick and whatever, like there's some moves that you need a really slick deck for, and there's some moves where you need a poop deck for.
Hmm.
You almost have to plan it out that way too. It's just nuts that there are so many routes that we can think about these things with.
Yeah. I was talking with Leon Tay recently in an interview, and we were talking about how kind of like uncut performances don't really happen anymore because, like you said, we can sit down and take as many cuts as we want before we find the perfect one. Whereas that leads to us not having our moves down as pat because we have a million times to get the move down instead of being
Yes.
able to just bust it out and do it right away, which has changed over time. Early on, people really kind of focused on perfecting their moves, and now it's kind of like just a rat race to create as much as possible.
Yeah, that's good. I was gonna say another person who was like that in the fact that they just sit and mull over them. Nick Stumphauser, a good friend of mine, has some really well thought out moves and can do them on the spot at any time,
Hmm.
but just like sits and methodically thinks through all the rhythms and everything.
Yeah.
I I think that I definitely got caught up at some points in that rat race of like trying to make more, and that is what led me to start hating cardistry. And I was like, I don't want to do it if it's stuff like that. Like if I just have to feel like I have to create moves all the time for people to like, I don't want to do it. But then the other day, I was literally actually on my I visited Missouri a little while ago, and the hold on, I got a card that turned over in here, and I was just messing around at this restaurant with my friend Ethan, and I had been messing with this for a while, this look, but I didn't really know how to end it, and then this all of a sudden came out of nowhere because I was having fun. And I'm like, that's actually a really good move of mine. But I like just wanted to play with it for a while. So it's like this opening, this spins around, and then this was where my thumb. This is the thing. All my really good moves are accidents. Because my thumb accidentally got stuck here, and then I realized that it broke that packet apart and flipped it around. And then I was like, wait a minute, that's awesome. So I'm essentially the Bob Ross of cardistry. Happy accidents.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say. That's what I'm claiming.
And I don't think it's necessarily wrong to like, for the people that do want to just like constantly create. I just think like as a community, we're so, at the moment, we're so focused on one thing when there's really opportunities to just go at your own pace and enjoy it how you want to do it.
Like I had to ask myself this question a little while ago. What do I think I'm missing by rushing? Realistically. Because a lot of the times when I actually slow down, I enjoy it more. So why am I rushing?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great, I mean, yeah. Think about what you're doing. Why do you like it? Why do you not like it? To, just figure out how you want to go about cardistry. I find like I really would love to be able to push out like every week I could make a move. Like that would be amazing. But I don't work like that. I have like I'll go a couple months with nothing, and then I'll have a weekend where I'll create a whole like ton of stuff. That's how I work. I can't do it like once a week like some people can.
And some people, I guess I've never really met anyone that can, but I do remember that after Cardistry Con, on the plane ride home, I came up with like 15 new things because I just saw so much that weekend. I was like, oh, I have to try so much. Like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. My brain was just like racing.
And yeah, I think there's something to be said too about like watching good, not necessarily good, but unique cardistry as well to get your kind of your brain pulsing and looking at things different ways.
I think that it's this thing that we don't like a lot anymore, or we have a hard time finding, which is inspiration. And it's like, interesting comparison. But do you ever play Rocket League?
A little bit, yeah.
So I found that, and this can go for pretty much anything, but I'll play Rocket League for a little bit. Then I will take a break, and then I'll watch some professionals play and just kind of see kind of like their rhythms and their motions of how they go about it. And I've done the same thing with basketball. And then the next time I go play Rocket League or basketball, my brain's kind of like, you should try that. And then I do something and I'm like, well, that was a good idea. So like watching some really good talented cardistry videos of people who are different than you. And then later on you get like with your deck of cards and you're just like, what if I put that? Oh, and what if I put this here? And and then I close it like, oh, that's a move. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just our brain can only like get stuck kind of in certain ways, certain movements, whether it's muscle memory or just however we look at it. And then you see someone else doing it differently and you're like, I can do it differently too, and then something spirals off from that. So yeah, it's something really cool about cardistry is how much inspiration we can get from other people and other performance videos.
I was actually going to say, one thing I tried to push myself and challenge myself to do was try to go and learn other people's moves that they have a tutorial for, even if you are a content creator yourself. Because there's this one, I don't even remember the full move, but it's this thing that I think Sean did at Cardistry Con, and I'm not even remembering the whole actual move of it. But it was just this, I realized that what you find motions you like, even if you learn other people's moves. So I figured that I didn't even know this. Usually I would go like this to move a packet down like that. But something that I really enjoyed about his was the fact that he pushed it down with his thumb like that. And then it kind of puts my hands in this other position. And then I ended up making up this thing the other day that looked really cool. And then didn't even know how to finish it. But just for some reason adding this little piece gave me a little bit better of a understand, or just even just a more fun way to, instead of moving the packet down like this every time. I don't know what it was. It's just like, oh, this is more fun, and adds some perspective on how to do things. So just go learn more people's moves, and then you'll essentially add building blocks for yourself of stuff you want to use. And it's really good.
I wanted to ask you, like, if you had any tips or like how you think you can go about in community engagement, because I think that's something you do pretty well, as compared to other people in the community.
What do you think I do? I want to know, one, I can't answer that, but two, I want to know what you observe about me that's different from others. Like, what do you mean by that? That's something that I'm good at.
Yeah. So I mean, you actually, like, if I didn't talk to you, if I hadn't talked to you through this podcast interview series or met you, I would still have a good idea of the type of person you are just because of your stories and everything. Like, you have a personality that's you, that shows through. Whereas someone like Tobias Levin or Oliver, you do get glimpses of their personality, but most of the time you're just getting kind of pictures, snapshots. You don't really know who they actually are in a sense.
Yeah.
You kind of reveal yourself and make it more, since we know who you are, we're more likely to interact with you, I think, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I would say, one, I think that also comes down to gifting, or I think the way that I've been just designed as a human by God is, I think I've been given a gift of, like, when I was young, I did some reflection this week, and I have a friend who gets socially anxious, and she was she's telling me about how much it stressed her out that I said hi to people all the time. And I was like, Toria, I don't know what you're talking about. It's just been something I've done since birth. My mom would tell me stories about how when I was 2 years old, I would walk up to kids on the playground and be like, "Hi, I'm Nathan. Do you want to be my friend?" And it's just something that has been in me forever. I would say that a way to improve that or address it and engage your community is, like, well, one, ask them questions you actually care about. If you ask them questions that you feel obligated to ask, you're not going to care about the answer, so you're less likely to check up on what they actually had to say. I think that that's an interesting thing that I get caught doing sometimes on these posts, where I'm like, I ask this question to my audience, but did I even really care about the answer? And I find that when I actually care about the answer, I'm more likely to answer it, engage with people. And then I think that it's something that I have definitely fought all my life, and I will continue to fight because I'm a human being. But just like battling insecurity is probably a lot of why people don't post to their stories, or kind of like let themselves. One, some people just enjoy privacy more, and I just am not. I just don't care that much. But like, I'm an extrovert. I get my energy from interacting with people. So literally, I guess that just gives me a leg up. I guess gives me a little bit of an advantage, where I love getting on here and not knowing you super well and actually getting to know you. If other people aren't looking to get to know other people well, they're not going to engage with their community. They're not going to talk to people. Something that obviously Cam Toner does super well is, like, actually gets on, talks with people on their Discord. Just essentially, it doesn't happen all in one day, but the way to improve your community engagement is go talk to people, and don't feel so pressured that it has to be like this perfect conversation. Like, I told this to my friend the other day, that was kind of like, how in the world do you say hi to so many people, and why are you not scared of it? And it's like, well, because there's no pressure on the interaction. All I do is I just say hi, like literally just hi. And then, like, if you ask, how are you doing? A lot of the times it opens up other people to either start a conversation with you. Like, literally last night, if people watched my personal story, we were just walking by this cupcake shop that was obviously closed in our downtown area at night. And the baker happened to be there, like, baking for the next day. And I just waved in the window like I always do. And he kind of like looks at us and like gets up from the table. And normally I think people are conditioned to believe that something bad is going to happen. Now, I've stayed along long enough, or had enough interactions to know you always think that something bad's going to happen, but rarely does it ever happen. In fact, I bet you some other people would have like shuffled away and been like, oh no, he's coming. Like, are we gonna get yelled at or something? And he came outside and he was like, you guys want some free samples? And we're like, yeah, like, duh. So essentially just walk into these situations and ask people, or just say hi and ask them how they're doing and then see what happens. A lot of the times conversations will happen that you don't expect to happen.
So I think we're probably try to end on a good note, but I think we're nearing the end here.
Then what's something we can celebrate together? You've
What's
got a
something-
ton of growth that's been happening in your life just from the reflection on your last year. Do you have any big plans for the future? I'll
do I
interview
have
you.
any big plans for the future?
Yeah, for Cardistry Talk.
Yeah, of course. We're gonna probably try to do some in-person interviews at some point, obviously, now that stuff's been opening up.
Ooh,
I haven't announced this officially yet. It's gonna be in the 1 year anniversary video, which by the time this goes up, everybody's already seen. But
you're right.
me and Cedric are working on a collaboration deck. So Cedric Clancy, we're working on a project called the Card Artisans Project, and the goal is for it to be the biggest collaboration for playing card designers. So there's going to be 52 back designs, and each back design is supposed to be a different designer is the goal.
Oh,
or member of the
dang.
community. So this is going to be a really long project that's going to take a long time to do, obviously. So this, like, I'm planning for this to be completed like a year later, but we're announcing that here on that video. We already have 1 or 2 people already here with designs, and like some people lined up. So we'll see how it goes, but I hope it goes well.
You should, if you haven't already, you should reach out to Max. Max Young. It's spelled Jung. He's obviously the designer of Kisetsu, but he would be a great guy to reach out to.
Yeah, and then like you said with the charity stuff, since there's so many collaborators on this project, any money that we make is going to go straight to a charity, as
That's
opposed
so
to
cool.
because we can't really deviate
Split
the
it up
money
52
between 52
ways.
people. Yeah, it would be a nightmare. So this is something straight for the community. It would either go to a charity or a member of the community in need if that pops up as well.
That would be really cool.
So
that would be very, very cool.
The whole thing is supposed to be community driven and then given back to either the community or to charity is the goal.
That's super cool.
So that's something I'm super excited about, and I hope takes off. Like I said, it'll be announced Thursday on the 1 year video. There's going to be a little trailer, but
that's tomorrow.
Yeah, I have to finish editing it. That's why I wanted to end this.
And then I have to post the your tutorial for us.
Yes, for 7:15 tomorrow, preferably.
Yeah, you just send me all that information. I can do that for you. Little hint. That's the only thing I'll say, but lo-fi deck.
There you go. All right, we have some celebration accomplished, I think.
There we go.
Nate, thank you once again for being on the show again. It's been a pleasure.
Sir,
as always.
It's an honor. I can't wait to see where this goes.
Yes, so I'm super happy with you and Xdecks and everything got figured out. Is there anything you want to plug real quick? I mean, I'm assuming
the Xdecks Instagram, Xdecks YouTube channel. That's about it. Hopefully, guys, July 9th, you can come grab a deck of Kisetsu to support us on our first deck release. And then essentially just engaging with our website and just getting the name out there because we're really young.
So links to all that stuff will be in the description as always. Nate, thanks for being on the show.
You are welcome.
Audience,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Audience, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something, had a little fun. We will see you guys later. So
bye, guys.
Bye-bye.